Hi, welcome to You Didn't Get the Memo. I'm your host, Gloria Bailey Ray. As always, we have a fantastic show for you today. I want to remind all of you, if you're first time viewers, that You Didn't Get the Memo is about providing you, the viewer, with relevant, factual, mainstream information to help you be informed and to make informed decisions. You Didn't Get the Memo airs live on Facebook, YouTube, and also on LinkedIn. If you have any questions or comments for my guests, place them in the comments section and we'll do our very best to respond to you. Now, let me just share with you today, my guest is Miss Pat Baxter of REIT Legacy, who will be discussing how to build a bulletproof retirement plan. And I don't know about you, but you know what? There comes a point in time where we have to stop and take stock in what we're doing and preparing for our future. It's been said that retirement is the world's longest coffee break. There was a time when people viewed retirement planning like a three-legged stool, meaning retirees could rely on a pension from their employer, their Social Security from the government, and their own retirement savings. Those three legs created a nice nest egg. And for those who've been around and can remember pension plans, they know what I'm talking about. But now, with pensions becoming a thing of the past and the future of Social Security being uncertain, it's more important than ever that we control what we can. Did you know that the majority of Americans do not have a written financial plan? Think about that for a moment. It's a lot harder to save when you don't have a plan for your money. A financial plan written in conjunction with a trusted financial advisor will help keep you on track, which is why my guest is going to share some pearls about retirement planning. So I want to welcome to the show Miss Pat Baxter. Pat, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Gloria. It's so nice to see you too. For you, I can say I haven't seen you since pre pandemic. So
A
it's
very,
great to
very
see
long
you
time.
and so wonderful to see that you are going beyond the borders of the Bay Area with your wonderful programming.
Yeah,
So
thank you
thank you
so
for having
much.
me.
Yeah, thank you. Well, I'm excited. Like you said, it's been a really, really long time. And this is the subject that's near and dear to my heart. But I think that also the focus now with younger people really starting to look at, you know what? Hey, what's my future going to look like? That this is a great opportunity as we start to, I can't even believe I'm saying this, as we're starting to end 2021 and go into a new year. And it's really and truly about making plans and making the right plans. So I'll start out though so that my viewers have an idea of who Pat Baxter is. So tell us a little bit about what's your backstory.
Well, my backstory is I'm originally from Chicago, and many times folks say, "Well, how did you get into this industry, the financial industry?" And I can just recall as a young kid, for some reason, I mean, you guys probably remember on the news because we would sit in front of the news every evening, and I can just always remember when it got to the financial section, it was the Dow Jones Industrial and some of the other indices that they would talk about, and I didn't have a clue. So even as a small child, I wanted to know, well, what are they talking about? And in the newspapers, when we used to track, well, we weren't in my family, we weren't tracking stock, as a lot of families, I would probably say, in my community, because as Gloria alluded to before, most people had a pension, they had their savings, and they also had Social Security. So when it comes to retirement, when it comes to, I'm sorry, financial planning, most people are looking at, well, how am I going to retire? So even from a young child, I had an interest in money. And then it kind of went on to money management. After leaving college, I actually worked for an insurance firm for a few years and then for an investment firm. But as I came out to the Bay Area, as I like to tell people, I got the technology bug. So I worked for many years in the high tech industry. But in 2002, another bug came back, and that was the financial industry bug. And I really saw it as a passion to manage, you know, people's funds, to manage, their success, so that they can have financial success, and retire well. Because again, as I stated before, most people, when they look at financial planning, financial advising, they usually want to make sure that they retire well. So that's the number one question.
Right, right. And of course, the thing with financial planning, I just think back to my parents and growing up, and it's like, I don't need nobody to tell me what to do with my money. And so for the people who are out there thinking like that, I'm going to give you some pushback and say, well, you know what? It never hurts to have someone, and that's their expertise, check in. It's kind of like if I'm going to build a house, yeah, I know some nails and some lumber, but guess what? I need an architect and someone who can actually put this all together. And I think that's the key thing. But let's talk a little bit about when we talk about planning and retirement advisors, what is that? I mean, what does that mean? Because I think people may have some confusion around what a planning and retirement advisor is.
A planning and retirement advisor, I'm going to really explain this to the audience based on how I operate my business. Because for some individuals, a planning and retirement advisor may be something totally different. But as far as the way that I operate my business, as far as planning, for me, it means that it has to have a holistic approach to planning. So for some advisors, even just looking at, say, the investments, how well are your investments doing? Some people are interested in day trading and things like that, as opposed to a more holistic planning of looking at all of the risks that are associated with a successful, financial plan, looking at your particular goals. Your goals are extremely important. It's looking at your family. How is your family structured? Is it important for you to leave a legacy? So things like that, because if you want to leave a legacy, you want to do it in the most efficient way. And I'm also looking at taxation. So it's a broader approach, I would say, that when you look at planning, as opposed to someone that is just giving you investment advice. Of course, we want to make sure that we keep a really sharp eye on your investments, and they're going to support your goals. But it's more than just looking at investments.
Yeah. So why should people hire, that you've alluded and led into some of the things, but why should people really hire a financial advisor when they can do their own retirement plan? Because I know on the job, people who have 401ks, there's still some pension plans around.
Mm-hmm.
There are a few in between.
Very few.
But at the same time, when we think about hiring someone, I think about what you do as someone who really has an eagle eye on, where my finances lie and where I can shore up and do some things. So I don't know, I don't want to take away from you, but why would you, that's your elevator pitch right there. Why should people hire a financial advisor when they can do a retirement plan?
Yeah, and from an elevator pitch standpoint, pretty much, just about, we have certain, maybe illnesses that we could diagnose ourselves. I mean, if we're really in tune to our bodies, but what do? We go to a doctor for that second opinion. So when things are so important in our lives, be it our health, our finances, and so forth, what's wrong with getting a second opinion and some guidance? So that's one of the key things to note. But also, I just want to share this with the audience, because it depends on what type of financial advisor that you're hiring. Because many times people may carry the banner to say that they're a financial planner, they're a financial advisor, but maybe they just have an insurance license. Now, I have an insurance license too, and I also have a securities license. So it is if you're looking to hire a financial advisor, you should always ask the questions. Are you securities licensed? Are you required to operate as a fiduciary? Those are key. And even to, are you insurance licensed? Because in both industries, be it insurance as well as on the investment side, we're going to have good solutions that can support a solid retirement. So it's not just one side versus the other. It's, if you want to have really a diverse plan that's going to support your goals, based on income needs as well as, growth needs, then you probably have to look at both sides.
Yeah.
So those are some questions that I would say that, you would want to ask.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. It's interesting that you make that comment about differentiating, in terms of licensing and those kinds of things, because again, you're putting your money in the hands of this individual. And, sometimes people say, well, wait a minute, I want my money back. They need to understand the risk and the benefits. And what you're talking about is someone, you talked about their plan. And a lot of times people don't think about that. What are their goals, really?
Yeah, what are your goals?
What are your goals?
Very important.
That to me would make an awful lot of sense, that before you can even get started, if you don't know what your goals are, and this is extremely important for those millenniums and what is the Gen, I can't even keep up with them now, where the Gen
X and Gen Z. Yes, so many gens.
So all of these things, because they're making more money than we have ever even imagined. But you can make a lot of money, but you can also spend a lot of money. And if you're not putting it in the right instruments, I would think that would make a huge difference right there as well. So you're bringing up a good point. What are your goals? It's getting people to think about those particular things, right?
That's so critical. And even though, as you stated, that maybe the millennials don't quite know their goals, but okay, a lot of them do. But what's really interesting is that I've had cases a lot where couples, I'm meeting with couples, and they haven't really sat down with each other to understand, well, what do you want? What do you think our plan should be? So sometimes I feel like I'm more of the counselor, kind of bringing that together just so that they can have a kind of a platform where they can discuss that comfortably.
Yeah. But you're opening up a conversation that sometimes people don't even think that they really need to have, right? And so that's, I think that's great. We have a question from one of the viewers. They're asking, is diversity always the way to go?
Diversity can mean a lot of different things. So there are different levels of diversity. And depending on what you're talking about, because I think most people, when they think of diversity, they're thinking of what we call asset allocation. So asset allocation really refers to the fact that, say, when you're in your accumulation phase, so maybe you're in your 30s or your early 40s and you're still accumulating. So you're probably a little bit more aggressive. So you have more equities. So maybe 70% equities and 30%, more fixed income solutions. So a lot of times people consider that to be kind of the diversity. Or now we see a lot of these funds that the investment houses are offering that are retirement date funds. So you kind of give them the date that you're planning to retire, and the asset allocation is going to be balanced in that way. So diversity is definitely important. And I would say, from the perspective of understanding, well, how much, diversity from the perspective of saying, I need to support my income. I need to take care of my income and make sure that is solid. It's going to create a predictable, measurable, and sustainable income. And then everything else can go on what I call the growth bucket. So that's just another concept that also includes diversity. But I would say, as an advisor, I would not believe in putting everything in one bucket.
Yeah. Okay.
It's at a very high level.
Thank you for that question. We're going to take a quick break. And I'm going to allow you to kind of think about this, although you do not have to think about it, but we're going to pause for the cause. So let's talk about what services, kind of, drill down. What services do financial advisors offer? And when should someone consult a financial advisor? So I'll leave you to ponder that. And you guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Maybe you can make retirement happen. After all, you made home ownership happen. Homeschooling yourself on loans, beefing up your credit score.
So I'm pre-approved.
You were like, yes! Sorry. Color coding listings, ticking boxes, and flushing every toilet in a 20-mile radius. Home sweet home. You aced house hunting. Now get the tips you need to get on track at aceyourretirement.org.
Recently, the western U.S. has averaged more than 1,900 earthquakes and 3,800 significant wildfires each year. So chances are there will be more of both near here again. And between school, sports, and social lives, chances are you won't be with your kids when it happens. Will they know what to do? Ready.gov/kids has all the educational tools and information to make the conversation easy. When the time comes, chances are they'll feel prepared, not scared. So talk with your family today.
All right, if you guys are just tuning in, I have with me my awesome guest, Miss Pat Kennedy Baxter of REIT Legacy, and we're talking and trying to get our viewers informed. That's what this show is about. And Pat is, before we went to break, I had asked her the question, what services do financial advisors offer? And I'm asking her to really drill down, but also would someone consult a financial advisor? Because I'm certain some of you out there that are making those 5, 6, 7, 8-figure salaries, you want to know. So my guest, Ms. Pat, going to help you. So Pat, your thoughts in regards to those two questions?
Yes, I'm going to address the last one first.
Oh.
And it's because so many people think that, not that they don't need an advisor, but they're not worthy of an advisor. Maybe they think that their portfolio is not large enough. And there are some advisors, that will say, well, we'll only, work with people that have $1 million portfolio or 2 million or whatever that number may be for them. But I do look for potential because there are definitely a lot of millennials and a lot of, pre-millennials. I don't know if that's X-Gen, no, that's Y-Gen. But they have potential. And for me, especially being an African-American woman, and if I see, minorities or, other women that have the potential, but they just need that guidance based on their finances, I'm willing to give that and not say that, well, you need to come to me with this $500,000 portfolio. And a lot of times my clients who, their parents will refer me to their children as well. And the thing is that when it comes to a portfolio, it's always so shocking. Sometimes I can sit down with an individual and they'll have $1 million portfolio, and it may all be in their 401k. And they go, I said, well, let's talk about your portfolio. And they'll say, I don't have a portfolio. So for some reason, that word makes it seem like they have to have just this tremendous amount, like 5 million or something. And that is not the case. And as far as services go, an advisor is going to provide advice, of course, guidance. And Gloria, you had mentioned one thing, that a lot of people don't have a financial plan. Mm-hmm. So the goal is the creation of that financial plan. And for me, when I meet with clients, I want them to understand that this is our working document. This is not something that's a template or generic. This is your financial plan. And we're going to continue to, through over the years until you retire, because I believe that if I do my job when you retire, I mean, we should not be having to make so many tweaks at that point. But that's what a financial provider, advisor will provide. And there are, some solutions, like as I said, insurance companies offer solutions, investment firms offering solutions as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for saying that, because I do think that people tend to be hesitant when it comes to you sitting down. Look, if you're only making $7,500, $150,000 a year, I really do appreciate what you said, Pat, that, you look at the potential that's there. Right? A lot of times people don't even know what they have. They don't even realize how much that they could be putting into their portfolio. They have no idea that, what, if we've got a company that's matching stock, what
Yes.
should I be doing? And not even realizing just all of those things. And I love hearing you say that, the potential, because people are, it's like, if you don't have at least 1 million, 2 million, 2.5 on the books,
Yeah.
I don't want to talk with you. And I thank you for saying that, because I think right there, that just cut through the chase. And it's like, this is the person I want to work with, not somebody who's looking at, I need to have all of this. Because the truth be told, I always say there are a lot of people that if you look at the exterior, they look like they were, millions.
Exactly. So you see a lot of that. Exactly.
And when you start to peel back that onion layer and you really look at it, and you like, these people are one paycheck away from poverty. Yeah, so that piece of it is real, and I appreciate you saying that. And I just say to my viewers again, this is the type of person that you're wanting to work with, because what I hear here is partnership. What I hear is someone that has care and concern, and they want, see, when they do well, you do well. Right. And that's the reality. And the wellness that I'm speaking of is the satisfaction of knowing that you've put these people on the right track to be able to do something for their lives. And legacy, I don't care what anybody says, we all should want to leave a legacy. So thank you so much for saying that. So let me just ask you this. As a financial advisor, let's talk about, do you sell products? And if so, what types of products could someone possibly be looking at that you might recommend? Just hypothetically.
Well, I am independent. I think that's important to know, meaning that my firm is not tied to any particular investment company or insurance company. So when we look at diversity and having access to a multitude of solutions, that's what Reap Legacy is. So yeah, that's, really important to make sure that that is the case.
And you bring up an excellent point. You didn't expound on it, but the fact that you aren't tied into, because there are people who will only sell you products with this particular company.
Exactly.
For you aren't able to move around. And so what I hear is there's diversity in the fact that you can go where you need to go and gather products or work with different companies, and your hands aren't tied. Whereas,
Right.
and a lot of people, I don't think, really understand and recognize that. So you're able to find the best investment vehicle for them without, saying I can only do this and I'm limited. So that's another plus, at least in my opinion, Pat. That's
Yeah, and that's part of being, if you're licensed, you have to operate as a, fiduciary.
Mhm.
So if I'm trying to squeeze in, say, a peg, a square peg into a round hole,
Right.
it is not really fitting for you, then I'm not operating
Right.
as a fiduciary in that case, because I'm just trying to make that happen, and maybe for the benefit of myself. And that is not, you can't do that.
Right.
So
Right.
yeah, that's another area to probably check when you're looking at financial advisors to, see if they are independent.
Yeah. So when we talk about financial advisor versus a financial planner, is there a little bit of difference or really and truly no difference at all? What does it come down to?
Between a planner and an advisor?
Financial advisor, financial planner. Yeah.
Yeah, I just think it's just the choice of words, or titles.
Right.
As I stated, planner for me is a little bit broader,
Mhm.
but still it's an advisor. So all of it comes together, it's the same. It just probably, just really based on what you choose to
Right.
title yourself, I think.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
describe the type of clients that you work with. You definitely have kind of given us, you've piqued, I think, several people's interest in terms of just the fact of how you go about doing business. But can you describe for us the types of clients that you work with?
Sure. I would say that in terms of an age group, if that would run the bulk of my clients are the ex-geners. So those that are, say, in their mid 40s, all the way up to probably, like 72. So it's a pretty broad range. Most people will contact me as they're getting closer to retirement. I'm always encouraging people to contact before that because there's something that we call it's the red zone. So the 5 years before you're planning to retire, and then even the 5 years after you retire are so critical to the success of that retirement plan. So for those, most people, they will contact you. Oh, I'm retiring in a year. I'm retiring next month. Don't wait that late. Really, because there are some planning things that probably could take place that would be very beneficial to you had you contacted an advisor earlier, even during your accumulation period. Because as I always tell people, the accumulation period is usually the easiest part of the planning for everyone. It's just, getting committed to it. What becomes most difficult is the decumulation. That's where people get like, oh my God, what do I do? How do I make sure I don't run out of money? Because as they say with baby boomers, the real big concern is how do I make this set amount of money last for an indefinite amount of time to fill this income gap? So that's a big, trying to answer that is very, very big.
Yeah, yeah. And it would make sense that when somebody contacts you and say, I'm retiring in a year or two, well, now you cannot, let me just say this, in my opinion, you cannot expect that financial advisor or planner to try to pack into those 2 years things that probably should have gone on at least, 5 to 10 years sooner. So let's be
Mhm.
clear. I think Pat may be a miracle worker, but she's not a miracle worker, right?
Yeah, and you can, definitely get some positive results, even though, say, if somebody, has done some savings. So now it's about, well, how do I position things? How do I decumulate? We're looking at, effective and efficient tax solutions as
Yes,
it relates to planning. But what I'm saying is that you may have missed. So it's a missed opportunity
right.
situation because you waited late. It doesn't say that you can't still retire successfully.
Yeah, and with people living longer lives, I still say that even though I know the pandemic has impacted a lot, but it affected young and old. So but people are still living longer lives. So how do I stretch my retirement benefits, till age 90, 95? I mean, what do you do? So you bring up some really, really good points that
Yeah.
I'm hoping people will actually take advantage of. So speaking of the pandemic, during the pandemic, how did you assist your clients in adjusting their plans? Because you had people who had to start working remote. Some people just lost their jobs altogether. So can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, the pandemic created a multitude of different responses. Okay. As you said, there were people who lost their jobs. There were people who had to maybe step away from their job because they had to stay home to take care and be with the children for schooling. And usually in a situation like that, we find that the people that are most impacted by that are women, lower, income individuals, and minorities. So, there were people that all of a sudden, right, they could no longer contribute to their financial plan any longer. And in addition to that, since they had stopped working, they weren't getting the matches from their 401k or, putting into their 401k, et cetera. So that was the one side where we had to adjust things for sure. And, some of those people have gone back to work, et cetera. And then you had a lot of companies that decided to downsize because of the pandemic. So that meant that if you're going to work for this company, you have to be willing to move to another state. So someone that's close to retirement, the likelihood of them agreeing to move to a faraway state at this point is very unlikely. So I had individuals that were, coming to me and saying, do you think we can do this a little bit earlier? Okay. And then some who just, working at home with the pandemic and just decided that this is fun. Let's see if we can make this happen earlier than I anticipated. So it was just a lot of different, people experiences with the pandemic.
Yeah.
How people were, had back to them.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're talking about having to me, being creative in so many ways. And you're absolutely right. When I talk to people that said, yeah, my company said I would still have a job, but I had to move cross country. So I go from cool weather to cold weather, right? And that did, and it made a difference, and it altered a lot of people's plans. But as we know, we have to be resilient and have to deal with life as it comes to us. So let me just say, we're going to pause for the call. We're going to take a really quick break here. But Pat, when we come back, let's talk about the 50-30-20 plan and how it works. And we're going to get into talking about the Roth Ira and the Traditional Ira. But you guys, I want to thank you so much for your questions. Thank you for tuning in. Again, to my international folks, thank you guys for being here. And national, I do not want to forget you for sure. But thank you guys for tuning in. You are tuned in to You Didn't Get the Memo with my awesome guest, Miss Pat Baxter of REAP Legacy. And she's talking to us about how to help you build a bulletproof retirement plan. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
My uncle, Freddie Lee Tyson, was a part of the syphilis study. He was such a wonderful man, a very loving, very caring, very jovial person. He helped build the air base at Moulton Field. When you think about the Tuskegee Airmen, all of the greatness that they did, and then in this same space, such an atrocious study was being heaped upon our men, that really shook my spirit. They were not being treated. That is very different from what's happening with COVID-19. The vaccine is being made available to anyone who wants it, even those who find themselves at the space of hesitancy. We have to have patience and give them the requisite information that they need, that they can make an informed decision. But let's do it out of love.
Let's get back to talking smack with the side of mac and cheese. Before we can safely come together, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. To get the facts, visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you.
All right. Thank you guys for hanging in here with us. My guest, Miss Pat Baxter of REAP Legacy. And we're talking about how to help you build a bulletproof retirement plan. But we're also covering some of the topics and questions that you guys may have. And it is my hope and I'm certain my guests, that you will take away. And you see, I've been putting up, making sure that you got all of her contact information, her social media information, to reach out to her for assistance with building your bulletproof retirement plan. Before we went to break, I posed a question to Pat, and it was, first of all, talk about what the 50-30-20 plan is and how does that work?
Okay. Well, first of all, I must say the 50-30-20 plan is a little generic for me. And essentially, just for the audience sake, essentially what it says is putting 50% of your income towards your needs, 30% towards your wants, and then 20%. Yeah, 20% towards financial goals. So as I stated, I mean, I think if you have an advisor should not be going 50, 30-20 with you, because the fact is that if you don't really need an advisor to do that. So that is not creating a plan that's really specific for you. And also, those percentages are going to be different based on each person. Those percentages will be different based on the phase you are in your life. Because I would have to say that as people are getting closer to retirement, or you're in retirement for sure, you're probably going to drop that last percentage. And we're going to spend most of our time on covering the needs and the wants.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. It's going to be the needs, because it's about retirement is about having a good time.
Mm-hmm.
As well. And that's one of the things I always share with my clients too. I want to know what it is that what are you passionate about? What is it that you want to do in retirement? Because that's what we want to get you to that point. Yeah. Those are your wants.
Yeah, absolutely. But I wanted to bring that up because, like you said, that's really kind of antiquated. But it's for people to see, look, you know what? This is subject to change, as we know, just with the pandemic. If that's how you were kind of doing things, we need to think about it. And that's why pushing the envelope as it relates to having a financial advisor. But you know what? Roth IRAs. You hear a lot about IRAs, IRA, individual retirement accounts. So can you just share with us, look, Reader's Digest version, the difference between a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA for our viewers, please?
Okay. So with a IRA, so the whole concept of an IRA is that you're going to take your funds, which is the max about $75. You're doing a traditional IRA, it's going to be about $7,500 per year that you can put into an account. It can be a savings account, it could be an investment account, it can be an annuity, or whatever that may be. And by doing that, you're going to reduce your taxable income by the amount that you put into that account. So let's take it to the next level. So let's talk about taxation, because I'm a big one about, taxes and planning around that so we can be very efficient when we retire. And when you say you're retired now and you're going to start decumulating, taking funds out of that IRA, at that time, you're going to be taxed at the highest level. Because remember, you never paid taxes on those funds going in. And now you have some gain. So that means everything coming out of that is going to be taxed at your income tax level. And so many people say, as you know, with all of these pre-taxed, retirement vehicles, that, well, when I retire, my income, my taxable income is going to be lower. My tax bracket is going to be lower. And that may, if you're going to retire well, that doesn't have to be the case. In addition, I want to make sure that we understand, or ask yourself the question, do you think that taxes are going to reduce or go be lower, or going to be higher in the future, especially if we look at our debt in this country? So I do want you to ask that question as well. Now, let's compare that to the Roth IRA. So the Roth IRA basically says that, no, it's not going to be a pre-tax situation. So that same $7,500 that's going to go into that Roth IRA is going to be after-tax dollars. Now, the benefit of this is this. So you already paid taxes on that. And let's say that when you take the funds out, it has grown now to be $30,000. So that means as you're taking money out of that, you're not going to pay taxes at all, even on the gain. So that's the benefit there. So it's one of the things that I sit down with my grandson, my daughter, and I explain to them because they're young. Get as much money as you can into a Roth because you have so many years for this to grow. And all of that gain is going to come back to you tax free. Okay, that is very important. And I just want to make one other point too on this, because there is a tax limit, an income limit for those individuals that can actually contribute to a traditional, like a Roth IRA. And if you're single, it changes every year. This year, I think it's for a single individual. It's, I think 140,000. That's based on what they call your modified adjusted gross income. And then it's, I think 208 for a couple. Okay. But this is really important because that means that if you make over that amount, you can't even participate in a Roth IRA. But 401ks, 403bs, 457 plans at your place of employment often will have a Roth option. So if you ask the HR department, do we have a Roth option? That allows you to contribute based on what you normally can put into your 401k, 403b, and 457. So we have removed the limits, the lower limit, because there's still a limit on the 401k, but it's much higher. We're talking about if you're in your 50s, you can get like $26,000 per year in there. So we've removed that, as well as we removed the income limit as well. So, and you can contribute to both. It could be, contribute to the regular 401k and also put some in the Roth 401k. But believe me, when you retire, you're going to be real happy that you had something in Roth.
Yeah. Because taxes, the only thing you can be sure of, my mom used to always say, is death and taxes. That's for sure. So
yeah,
you don't have to pay it. That's really important. So you mentioned earlier, you said something about credit. And that was one of the questions that I had for you is how important is credit when dealing with clients, debt versus savings. So when we talk about credit, I think a lot of people say that, oh, it don't matter, but does it matter? What are your thoughts there?
Well, credit from the perspective of looking at someone's credit score to say, oh, if somebody has a bad credit score that I can't work with them. No, advisors wouldn't look at it from that perspective. But if you're planning to, retire, who wants to retire with a lot of debt? And, so that whole needs bucket becomes so large.
Right.
Whereas you probably want a little bit more going into that wants bucket so you can enjoy the retirement. So even, some of the people like, Dave Ramsey you hear about, or Susie Orman, I don't prescribe to, everything that they talk about. But I must say that with Dave Ramsey, when he talks about just being debt free, I'm all for that.
Yeah.
Even if you're planning for retirement, I want to know, your car, what year is your car? If you need to buy a new car, you need to probably do it now if you're retiring in, a couple of years.
Right.
And let's, get that covered.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. And Dave Ramsey, I have to say, I'm a student of that class, getting debt free. So I could totally relate to that. Thank you, Miss Latasha. She just said to your comment about the Roth IRA, traditional IRA, and finance.
Oh, she does both.
She does both.
Wonderful. I'm really glad to hear that, since that's my niece.
Oh. Okay, then. All right.
I'm very glad to hear that.
You, Latasha. All right. So when we talk about toxic debt, what comes to mind for you in that regard? Toxic debt. kind of goes back to what we were talking
Yeah,
about.
what we're talking about, but toxic is just like, individuals that turn to debt for everything.
Yeah.
It's this constant thing of, oh, I can just put it on a credit card,
Oh my gosh. Yes.
and
All right.
never realizing that, no, you really can pay for this. So that's where that, you were talking about that 50-30-20 plan, I think the labeling of those buckets are important, because sometimes we really do have to ask ourselves, is this a need or a want? So, because some things are just, okay, if it's a need, then you're probably more likely to go ahead. If it's a need and you have to put it on a credit card. But we really have to look at that. Is it a need or a want?
Yeah.
And if it's something is a want, it can probably wait. We can pay for it, etc.
Yeah, absolutely. I concur with you on that for sure. So, listen, guys, we're going to take a really quick break. We're going to be right back. But when we come back, I want us to get into building that bulletproof retirement plan. What types of things do you look at? So, guys, this is what you want to know. So don't go anywhere. We will be right back.
Stem is precise, no margin for error.
Dare to forget that. Dare to have fun with it. Get weird with it. Dare to load their minds. Dare to explore. Dare to STEM. Learn more at She Can STEM.
Whether it's advice on managing your anxiety or tools to help you stay grounded, Coping-19 provides a range of resources and self-care tips to help you cope with this pandemic. We can help. Find the resources that work best for you at coping-19.org.
All right, guys, thank you so much for hanging in here. I have Miss Pat Baxter as my awesome guest, and she's going to be talking to us and has been, leading up to talking about how to build a bulletproof retirement plan. And so before we went to break, I was like, all right, you have the floor. So let's talk about building that bulletproof retirement plan. Pat?
Okay. So one of the things, I guess I would want the audience to go back and look at, when you look at retirement, what is the one thing that is most important? What are we planning for? And I don't know if you're getting any answers there, Gloria, but I would probably say that most people want to make sure they have income. Income that's going to last them forever. Okay. Yeah. And we're dealing with a very huge risk here because longevity is right upon us. We have, people that have parents that are both living into their 90s and so forth. So the idea with you have to take care of your income. Mm-hmm. Okay. And separate the income from what I always call the growth bucket. So as we're getting closer to retirement, so that's why I said, kind of that 5 years out or even before that, we're starting to plan. Okay, well, what is the need for income? Okay, looking at what are the guaranteed sources that you may already have. One may be Social Security. One could be a pension. Pensions are very few, as Gloria mentioned earlier. But understanding that we have to take care of the income. Because once your income is taken care of in retirement, meaning that you're going to have guaranteed lifetime income, and it's going to be able to hedge against inflation and all of the taxation things that we want to take into account as well. So we have to have that growth within that bucket. Then if everything else on the other side is in that growth bucket, then you can feel comfortable knowing your needs are met, and then tapping into that growth bucket to have fun, to enjoy life, and not having a fear that, boy, I'm going to run out of money. And I would probably say that if you're putting everything into one bucket, particularly just in, directly into the market, just one nest egg, you have some risk upon you. One is withdrawal rate risk. So many people have just bought into this 4%. Just take 4% out. And I could give you a whole history on that, but I don't think we have time for that. But I will say that that has definitely changed, even amongst, universally amongst advisors, that it's more like 2.8%. So I just really shudder when I sit down with someone, for an initial visit that comes to my office and they're taking 6% out. They probably will run out of money. So there are vehicles that we have to put in place that will give you the solid, predictable, and measurable income first. So separating the two. So that was one of the levels of the diversity that I was alluding to earlier.
Right. Yeah, and for people, and I appreciate you guys comments. I think this is a great topic. They're appreciating. We have people around the country that are tuned in, but you guys, you're hearing it. And even though Pat is here, located in Northern California, listen, she can definitely take a phone call, which makes her, she's worldwide too. So in terms of you want help, I've been putting up her information, and this is about to help you. It's about to help us be better, because those things that you've heard in the past and people are giving you information that's not exactly correct, or it may have been correct 10, 15 years ago, but times have changed, and which is why we're talking about why you need to have a financial advisor that's advising you to get you through what we consider your golden years, and not end up if what we see now with so many people homeless and just not being able to afford to live a healthy life. So these are the things that we're talking about. So assisting you to actually live comfortably on your savings. And if you aren't sure, look, Pat, I'm just going to put that out there. Look, I want you guys, to go to this website or email pat@reaplegacy.com and schedule an appointment and get informed. There is nothing like being informed, right? So those are the things that we want to make sure that you guys have and that you're taking care of. Now, Pat, before we go, we're going to take a really, really quick break. And when we come back, I'd just like to ask you to think about what is it that you want people watching the show today to take away? What is it that they need to know and that they need to stay dialed in? So you guys don't go anywhere. I do not want you to miss what Miss Pat is about to tell you. All right. You're getting it straight from her mouth to your ears. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Thank you for watching the You Didn't Get the Memo show with your inspirational host, Gloria Bailey Ray. It's your contributions that make this happen. To become a sponsor, send an email to youdidn'tgetthememo@gmail. That's the letter U, didn't get the memo. If you're not in a space to be a sponsor, but you like what you hear, we simply ask that you support what you like by making a contribution to the show. There are 3 ways to make an online donation. Visit paypal.me/Gloria Bailey Ray or Cash App or Venmo, Gloria Bailey Ray. Give what you can. Your support is appreciated.
All right. Before we took that quick break, and I just have to say, Pat, you have been awesome. You've shared some pearls and got me to thinking. I'm like, I need to get on top of that. But I want to thank you for sharing your wealth of knowledge. And before we took that quick break, one of the things that I always ask my guests, what do you want people watching the show to take away from today's interview?
First of all, you are worthy to have an excellent retirement. That's one of the things, most definitely, because sometimes people think that retirement means really scaling back and, barely making it, etc. So you are definitely worthy. It's just putting the work in, getting the advice, and following the plan. pretty much. So that is most important. And then getting it done. Okay, don't procrastinate. Get with an advisor. Sit down and get a plan. All of those things are so critical to starting, because you don't want to wait until that you're 1 year away, even though you have been accumulating well. You don't want to wait, because as I spoke about earlier, you're probably missing some opportunities when you do that. So definitely would want people to know that.
Yeah. All right. Well, Pat, don't go anywhere. I'll be right back. Okay. Listen, I want to say to all of you guys, I want to thank you so much for tuning in to today's show. It is my prayer and hope that you received information that's going to help you get informed and to work on building your bulletproof retirement plan. I want to say to my guest, Ms. Pat Baxter, I want to thank her so much for being on the show today. And a gentle reminder to all of you, I need to ask you this. If you guys have not hit like and follow me on my social media pages, please do that. I would appreciate that. Also, support our efforts so that we can continue to bring this type of programming to you by either inquiring about our sponsorship opportunities and packages, or if you just want to make a donation, that's fine. If you're not in that space to become a sponsor, you can still support by making a donation of any amount, because there is a blessing in the giving. Hey, I want you to be sure and follow me on all my social media platforms and mark your calendars for every Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific Standard Time for always another great show. Now look, coming up next week, back by popular demand, and I am excited. You guys asked for it, and I am bringing him back. Dr. Ron Osborne Williams, the relationship psychologist. Listen, he's going to be talking about relationships and the holidays. Now, I know y'all know somebody, it may even be you, but listen, he keeps it real. He is bringing it on, and I am excited to have this gentleman all the way from the East Coast. He's going to be on the show, you guys, next week. It's your loss if you don't tune in. So mark your calendars for next Tuesday, November the 16th at 5 p.m. Now look, if some of you are in need of some midweek inspiration, be sure to tune into my podcast, Real Talk with Lady G, every Thursday at 6 to 6:30 p.m. on Spreaker. That's Spreaker, Spreaker.com. Quick shout out again to all my viewers, to my new sponsors. Thank you. Today's show has been brought to you by Delane's Natural Nail Care. So thank you guys so much for being here. And as I always say, if you didn't take anything away from today's show, then it's you who didn't get the memo. Until this time next week, have a blessed week. Give thanks for all of your blessings. Stay safe. And listen, remember to pay it forward. I'm your host, Gloria Bailey Ray. It's been my pleasure. God bless you all. Peace.